A brief history of Halloween. The original Halloween was a Celtic festival called Samhain. Samhain in modern Irish translates as summer's end. It traditionally occurred on what would now be the night of October 31st until the end of November 1st. This holiday concluded the bright half of the year Beltane, and it began the darker half of the year in the Celtic calendar. Samhain marked the end of the harvest and would be celebrated with feasts, large bonfires, and the opening of burial mounds. Yes, this was a time where most wildlife would be dead or dying and animals would be slaughtered in preparation for the winter. The open graves, some being very large burial mounds containing hundreds of dead, were thought to be portals to the Otherworld. The Otherworld was seen as a place where the dead and various Celtic deities, or even fairies and fire-breathing goblins, resided. Samhain is observed in much of the Irish folklore and dates back over 2,000 years. It originated during or before the Iron Age in Britain, which began sometime during the year 800 BC. In addition to the opening of the burial mounds, this time was thought of as a, quote, thin time. Thin spaces in Irish folklore are those in which ghosts can pass easily throughout the worlds and visit relatives or seek out revenge. The large fires will be lit to create offers to the gods. In addition to these large bonfires themselves being thought of as offerings, many other practices took place during the festivals. There were those animal sacrifices, and some historians speculate possible human sacrifices occurred in some parts of the Celtic world during ancient festivals, though these claims are unconfirmed. Druids would also dress in costumes to ward off spirits, or later to accept other offerings and perform mischief on the spirit's behalf. Also in later times, we find other Halloween traditions associated with the practitioners of the Celtic religions, such as bobbing for apples and roasting nuts. This time of year was full of trepidation for the early Gaelic Druids, and they viewed life very differently than we do today. Or did they? Many modern people still believe in ghosts and perform different rituals around the world. You can find several online that date back hundreds of years and are still performed by pockets of modern Wiccans and Druids. One such was recorded in the 18th century, where a collection of stones, one for each person in the ritual, were placed in a ring around a large fire. The ritual participants would then run around the fire, exalting to the deities, while holding their own individual torch. The next morning, the participants checked each of the rocks to see if they were in place or if any were out of place. If a rock was out of place, that person was supposed to not live out the year. Well, that's pretty morbid. There were other, more harmless rituals involving roasting chestnuts and offering beer into the sea, which were a lot more tame. These festivals, especially during the Iron Age, when life was a lot more wild and violent in many aspects, were hugely important to life in this so-called ancient time. Life was centered on farming and harvesting, and it was a lot harder to grow food and to survive, much harder than it is today. Religion played an important part of life during the Bronze and Iron Ages, and these festivals were deeply important to those who began them. I wonder if people were closer to the spirit world or otherworld then because of how life was set up, and it was free of the many distractions we have today. All in all, if any of the Irish legends or folklore surrounding this holiday are in fact true, we live in a very different world than many of us believe. Thank you for joining me on this Halloween special for this short little brief history of the beginning of Halloween. Please check out the channel Henry Tales on YouTube for a lot of true stories that are very scary and done with excellent narration. You can see them listed on my YouTube page in the channels recommended at the bottom. Thank you for listening tonight and have a happy Halloween.